All right, it is June 20th of 2024, Thursday, June 20th of 2024, and the book club is meeting once again. So thank you all for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time on a Thursday to talk about God, the universe, love, infinity, and the law of one. So if you're joining this book club today, then you are joining us to read the Raw Contact, teaching the law of one together as a group. And just so you know how this is going to work, so let me go ahead and share my screen here. So I'm going to share my screen with you so you see the file that we have created. All right. If you are joining us, then you are reading the Raw Contact, teaching the law of one, which is the lightly edited version of the raw material, which is the originals. And let me show you a picture of what that looks like. So LNL Research, if you go to LNL Research, which is their website, and you go to library, you're going to see that they have tons of books for free. First one is Teaching the Law of One. So this is the one we're reading together. Now, if you don't have this version or you're not listening or reading this version, that's okay, because you can just read along with us. When you read the raw material, which is the original version, you're going to get the same gist, okay? This just clarifies things a bit. Now, if you're wondering how are you going to go through this material, this contact book, well, what we're going to do is we're going to piece together on this document what Jasmine and I did. In fact, I'll read this for you. Hello, seeker of truth. In this document, you will find the raw contact, teaching the law of one. You will also find comments of ours along with quotes from passages of other Confederation sources. Thanks to LNL Research and many others, including but not limited to a concept guide, Living the Law of One, A Wanderer's Handbook, Voices of the Confederation, and the Law of One Study Guide. We do not wish to distort Ra's message, but rather we strive to clarify and magnify certain topics throughout the raw contact that we once misunderstood using support material that is of Confederation sources. The truth is already within you. Please pay attention to this, ladies and gentlemen, especially if this is your first time joining us. The truth is already within you. No book, no person, or entity can tell you what is true for you. Only you can find that truth. So please, throughout our time here together, use your own discernment. As the Confederation says, please take what resonates and leave the rest behind. We love this book so much, and even if only one remembers/awakens, then this was a success. The few whom you will illuminate by sharing your light are far more than enough reason for the greatest possible effort. To serve one is to serve all. Ra. Bless you on your journey of seeking. Oh, and I love you, and thank you for hearing or reading this, Yusuf. By the way, my name is Yusuf. If you'd like to call me you, that would be great because that's my nickname. Hence, I am you, you are me, we are one. Yes. So before we begin, we're going to go ahead and do the circle of one, and then we're going to jump into session number 3. By the way, who has actually read the book in a while? Has anyone heard or read the book? Type 1 in the chat if you have. Hey, Nelson, welcome to the party. Raise your hand or type a 1 in the chat for me. So 1, 2, so far 3. Okay, good. Everyone is.
I do that?
How do you do that? All right, at the
Yeah.
bottom, if you move your mouse around, it'll say chat. Look for the chat.
Oh,
Click on it, and then you can type 1. By the way, I can see you, Miss Nancy E. Padua, aka my mom. Give it up, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it is a great honor today to have my mom here and my dad, Mr. Nelson Martin, and my mom, Miss Marlou Martin, Jasmine's mommy.
And your bonus mom, Claudia. Everybody's on here.
Yeah, yes, my other mom.
Bonus mom, Martin.
Here
Love
today.
you.
So today is a big day. If you'd like to just raise your hand at any time, just go ahead and raise your hand. You can just raise your hand if I can see you, or type 1 in the chat, and we will make time for questions. Feel free to unmute at any time and just ask it. There are questions that will come up as we go through this material, and that's perfectly fine. Please let them flow, just please make sure they're relevant so that we can stay on track, okay? So we have 2 hours here together, max, and then after that, we're just gonna open it up. So we will have a Q&A at the end if you wanna save it till then. Until then, let's do the circle of one. And I'll explain why we're doing this after. But here we are. Here's a circle of one. Please close your eyes and join me. What is the law? The law is one. Why are we here? We seek the law of one. Why do we seek Ra? Ra is a humble messenger of the law of one. Rejoice then and purify this place in the law of one. Let no thought form enter the circle. We have walked about this instrument, for the law is one. Okay, so since there are a few people in here who are new and who have not joined us before, first and foremost, welcome. We are covering session 3 today. We did touch session 3 a little bit last week, but what we're going to do, since there are some new people, I'm going to go ahead and summarize the previous 2 sessions for you, along with the raw material in general. That way you have an understanding, okay? So here's how the contact came to be. I wrote this brief summary. I swear this was not ChatGPT. This was not Google. This wasn't Quillbot or any AI. This was me, okay? I'm sharing this with you. After speaking with many contactees and doing research on UFOs, Don Elkins, a physics professor and UFO researcher, created a meditation circle as an experiment to see if they could contact extraterrestrials and learn about their philosophy, which he found very interesting. Now, a lot of people, when you think of a hobby, you probably think about something that's fun and relaxing. Well, what he considered a hobby was chasing UFOs, talking to the contactees of those UFOs, and he was obsessed with it. He's always obsessed with the meaning of life, the purpose of life, God, the universe, infinity. He had big questions about reincarnation, afterlife. And while he never found the answers from the church or science that he really wanted, even though he's a physics professor. So he figured maybe these ETs could teach us a little something, teach him a little something. So Carla Ruckart, so by the way, Don is the questioner. So if you see that word there, questioner, that is Don asking Ra the questions, okay? Are we tracking here? Yes? Okay. So he creates his meditation circle as a way to contact ETs, and eventually in this meditation circle, Carla Ruckert joined the group and was gifted at channeling due to her aptitude for meditation and her love of silence. She was a devout Christian, by the way. She had always dreamed with Jesus, and she was literally, I think she said 3 years old on, she remembers dreaming with Jesus. So she always had a connection to something more divine, something more positive. And one day she went into a deep trance and fell unconscious during a meditation circle. So essentially she went to sleep. A being known as Ra spoke through her, stating it is a more advanced feat due to the narrow band vibration they send. So they were trying to channel. So there's 2 different types of channeling. There's conscious channeling and there's unconscious channeling. What's the difference? Well, when you're unconscious, you're unconscious. And the reason why she had to be unconscious to channel Ra is because, just like he said, it's a narrow band vibration. Now you're probably wondering, okay, what in the world does that mean? Well, you can imagine this being is of a 6th density, way more intelligent in magnitude. In order to contact someone, and for that contact to say the words exactly as it wanted to transfer those words, it had to make sure that there was no distortion. So you can imagine when someone's unconscious, what do they bring along with them? They bring their biases, their projections, their perceptions, their opinions, their needs, goals, values, beliefs. So when she was unconscious, she was able to transmit this message with less distortion. Does that make sense? Did that click for everyone? Yeah. So she had to be unconscious as a way to not muddle the message, if you will. And it was a more advanced feat. In fact, there never was and never has been another channeling of this type, an unconscious channeling. Thus, she had to be in a tuned telepathic trance to communicate with this highly intelligent entity. Then Jim McCarty, The scribe, he's the one typing out the question, the words being transmitted. He's a very fast typer. Jim McCarty joined the circle as the scribe, and the rest of this book is the transcript of that question and answer communication between Don, the questioner, and Ra, the entity being channeled through Carla, the instrument. All right. So if you ever see the words questioner, who is that? Who is it? Don.
Don, yeah.
Yes, Don. And when we see the word instrument, who is that?
Carla.
Carla, yes. And the scribe is Jim. So you're not really going to see his name much in here, but you will, if you are hearing the audible version, you're going to hear his words, his voice as you're listening to it. Okay, continuing. So in session 1, here's what we learned. We learned that Ra introduced himself as a social memory complex from the 6th density. If you have no idea what that means, I would sit here and explain it to you, but let's go through the book together. Slowly, we're going to understand all of these things. Let the mystery unfold naturally, okay? Because I could sit here for 20 minutes and explain it, but just understand that you, I promise, will learn as time goes on. Communicating through Carla Ruckert, who was precisely tuned to receive their narrow band vibration. They greeted the group in the love and the light of the infinite creator. The purpose of the contact, Ra explained that they were called to the group due to their need for a diverse experience of channeling. They had been trying to channel for 12 years. They had been looking to contact and meditating for 12 years together, and finally, this being known as Ra appeared to them. But before that appearance by Ra, they were contacted by a group known as Kuo. Kuo is a group that is a part of the Confederation of Planets in service to the infinite creator. Just think of them as the alliance that overwatches our system, our planets, to make sure that no negative entities mess with this 3rd density illusion that we have here. Kuo is Latwi, Hatan, and Ra. It's a 4th, 5th, and 6th density social memory complexes that all share as a mind. They would visit the group and start channeling consciously. After many years of doing that, they finally, one day, Carla goes into trance, and now this being known as Ra is speaking through her because she was unconscious. Ra, as you know, is who we're talking about here today. Don Elkins, the questioner, asked Ra about their identity and purpose. Ra clarified that they are humble messengers of the law of one, that their purpose is to assist in the understanding of unity and the interconnectedness of all things. Does anyone resonate with unity? Anyone here resonate with unity? I know I do. And that's what I enjoy so much about the Confederation philosophy. And that's why I vibe more with this philosophy than a service to self philosophy of separation and anger and hate. Anyways, I digress. Ra introduced the law of one, stating that all things are one and that there is no polarity, no right or wrong, no disharmony, but only identity. They emphasize that the infinite creator, who is God, that's their word of saying God, is within all things, and that all is one. If this still, you're like, wait a minute, there is no right or wrong? No right, no wrong, no disharmony? But I look about in my world and I see so much disharmony. We're going to get into all that stuff. So if you're excited, so am I. And if you're wondering, how is it that there's no polarity? That's what we're going to learn throughout this book. Ra mentioned their previous interactions with humanity, including their involvement in ancient Egypt. They aimed to teach the law of one, but were misunderstood and their teachings distorted. This led to their withdrawal from direct contact with humanity until now. So what does that mean? Well, they visited Egypt thousands of years ago, and they found that even though they wanted to transmit the law of one, which is all about unity, the one infinite creator, the one true God, but they were misunderstood and their teachings were greatly distorted. So they decided, okay, we made a mistake here. We're going to withdraw and we're going to wait to transmit this message when they are ready. And that's why they have now visited us through Carla to talk to us. The condition of the instrument, Carla, was discussed, and with Ra emphasizing the need for her to be in a certain physical and mental state to facilitate clear communication. Specific instructions were given to maintain her well-being during and after the sessions. All right, so if you have no idea what this means, basically Carla is the instrument, and just like any instrument, what does an instrument need if it's going to perform or sound perfectly? It needs tuning, correct? Tuning. And so tuning, in this case, involved Carla being rested, having energy, and also making sure that she had her hand on the Bible or near the, she was near a Bible, because that's the book that she felt most comfortable with. She had read the Bible, God knows how many times. She's a scholar and a librarian most of her life, high intellect. She understood the word of God very well and through the Bible. So she felt comfortable with it. She needed a candle and she needed a certain incense to help her feel comfortable. All this was done for what? To tune Carla so that she is able to transmit a message from a 6th density social memory complex, 2.6 billion years more advanced than us. Yeah, it's necessary. Now, if you want to do conscious channeling doesn't require such of the same tuning as this would. This is a very extreme case because, again, she was transmitting a higher density being. And if you're wondering, again, what is a 6th density social memory being? I'm going to wait to share what that is for now. I'm just giving you a rundown of session 1, okay? So that was session 1. We're going to run through the simplified version really quickly, and then we're going to run through session 2. Wait, does anybody have any questions about what we just learned? Any questions? Are you looking to unmute if you're wondering? I think everyone can unmute. Any questions? No? Okay, cool. So here's session 1, simplified. I asked ChatGPT to help me out here, by the way. So I copy and pasted session 1. And by the way, Christina, welcome to the party. Good to see you. Christina Ireland. Is that your real last name? Because we're literally in Ireland right now. We're like 20 an hour from Dublin. So we're in Ringlestown House.
Yes, it's my real last name, and I am Irish living in Spain at the moment.
Nice. We have another.
I don't know. I'm applying for an Irish passport so I can stay in the EU.
That's not a bad idea.
No.
Those places. By the way, if you're just joining us, I see some people just joining us. Patty, Katie, Juliana. Didn't get to acknowledge you earlier. Thank you all for being here. We are just giving a summary of session 1. And what I'm going to do is run through this really quickly. And then we're going to move on to session 2 in a summary. And then we'll end up at session 3. All right. This is the first session. I am Ra. This is our first communication through this instrument. We waited until she was precisely tuned, as our vibration is narrow band. We greet you in the love and light of the infinite creator. We have observed your group and were called to you due to your need for diverse channeling experiences. We aim to offer a unique perspective on seeking the truth of the body, mind, and spirit. The Confederation of Planets in service of the infinite creator has one key message. All things, all of life, all of creation is part of one original thought. Our communication requires a more advanced reception than others. Consider your thoughts today. How many reflected the original thought? Was love and service present? That's a powerful question. Was love and service present? Consider your thoughts. Was love and service present? You are not of a material universe, in a material universe, but a thought dancing in a ballroom of immaterial patterns, part of the original thought. We face difficulty due to mental tension, but we'll describe our vibration. It enters from the top of the head with strong intensity. The instrument may feel this effect and speak our thoughts. So this is, if you're wondering what's going on here, well, Ra, when they were first visiting this group, had found contact with a few of them consciously, and they were all having like this weird sensation in their head. And it's basically Ra giving what's called conditioning. You'll notice it if you start studying any channeled works where their heads, their hands, their arms, the hair start kind of elevating. They get these goosebumps. They get this feeling in the back of the head. That's what's called conditioning. That lets you know that a higher density entity is looking to contact you. So at any time, if you're in the middle of a cool meditation a deep meditation and you start to feel some of these sensations, maybe it's time to ask who is looking to visit and if they are here to serve. Who knows? All right. The contact is resisted. We will try another instrument, Leonard, with a similar narrow band communication. So they were with Don, then they were with Leonard, then they were with Carla. And that's how it began. Again, we greet you in the love and light of the infinite creator. We ask for your patience as we are a challenging channel to receive, but may add depth to your understanding. We will answer any questions you have. Does the Confederation have a specific purpose, and what is yours? We are of the law of one. Our purpose is to harmonize polarities, simplify complexities, and solve paradoxes. We are one and aim to transmit the law of one to your people, continuing until your cycle ends. Is Ra connected to the Egyptians? Yes, we contacted the Egyptians and others in South America to teach the law of one. However, our message was greatly distorted and we withdrew to avoid hypocrisy. So they visited Egypt thousands of your years ago. And also in South America, if you check some of these pyramids, they're known to date back to the same time period as the pyramids of Giza. In fact, the pyramid of Teotihuacan in Mexico is precisely the same age as the pyramid of Giza. And the base is the same as the pyramid of Giza. Same. How's that possible? How's that possible? Because aliens created them. And Ra is telling us that they created the pyramids, which we're going to get into. I'm jumping ahead. But they visited the Egyptians. The message was greatly distorted. So they withdrew. They realized, okay, we don't want to be worshipped as gods. That's the difference between a positive and a negative contact. If it's a negative contact, they want you to worship them as gods. They're also going to give you doom and gloom. But a positive contact does not want you to see it as the one infinite creator. They're here just humble messengers of the infinite creator. Can you say more about planetary changes? The changes are trivial. Trivial meaning unimportant. We focus on spiritual harvests, not specific conditions. Can individual efforts accelerate planetary consciousness? Learning and teaching are interconnected. By teaching, you learn, and by learning, you teach. Serving one is serving all. Thus, it is the highest activity to pursue. Can we contact you again? Yes, but care is needed. To aid the instrument after a session, allow silence, call her name, and give water infused with love. This is how they're telling Don and Jim to basically break the meditation, if you will, that Carla is having in order to contact Ra. So she's completely unconscious. They basically told them not to touch Carla, but to give a little bit of silence, call her name, and then when she responds, give her water that they infuse with love. So does anybody have water here with you? If you have water, anybody have water, go ahead and hold it up. We're going to do this experiment. If Ra is a 6-density social memory complex, let's just be humble and say that we are not as intelligent as Ra yet. And Ra is telling Jim and Don, highly intellectuals, geniuses, to grab a cup of water and infuse it with love, because water holds vibration through transference. So what I want you to do right now, put your hands on the water, close your eyes. And now I want you to picture a puppy, a kitty, an adorable little animal. And I just want you to go, "Aw," you know, that feeling of like, it's so cute, you know? And then that same feeling, picture a baby. Maybe you had a son, a daughter, a niece, a grandbaby, and picture them. And you just remember when they were like 1 or 2 and the same feeling. Oh, yeah, that's that feeling. It's so cute. All right. That feeling is love, compassion, kindness, care. Those are positive feelings of love. So what I want you to do is feel that feeling. And now I want you to send that energy into that water. Send it into the water. Yes. And tell the water, I love you. Thank you. I love you. Thank you. Now let's drink the water. Ah, whoo. Thank you, water. All right. Very important that we care for water, by the way. Let's move on to session 2. So that was session 1. What I did is simplified these sessions so we can give a summary. Does anyone have any questions about session 1? That's in case you missed session 1. You're probably, some of you might be blown away. You're like, what in the world? Is a lot. Don't worry, as time goes on, things will simplify. That's what we're here for. Any questions? You're into LA on the plane. Way to go, Darcy. She's like in the airport or something. That's awesome. Okay, session 2. Hey. All right. Greetings. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and light of our infinite creator. I'm communicating through this channel. The reason we, Ra, contacted you to share information, as few can grasp our messages without distortion. Sharing our communications can help regularize and crystallize your vibrations. If one is enlightened, all are enlightened. We're here to teach, learn, which is a fundamental aspect of the law of one. Ra's history. We are aware of your interest in our history. However, it is important to focus on our philosophical teachings rather than historical events. This is one of the things I love about Ra. Ra's like, yeah, I know, we're amazing. We built the pyramids, and we were basically 6th density beings showing up as humans in Egypt. Yeah, we also taught you about pyramids, or that artwork is us. But please, that's not important. Like, they never even acknowledge that unless it's asked, but they'd rather focus on philosophical teachings rather than talk about how they built the coolest structure known to man. Like, that's pretty humble, if you ask me. We are from the Confederation and came to Earth 11,000 years ago to help two cultures aligned with the Creator. We believed we could teach without disrupting their free will, but our technology was misused by those in power. Does that sound familiar with what's happening today at all? Think about all the technology that we have that the government does not want to share. Well, Tesla, for example, a lot of that free energy stuff, maybe it's a conspiracy theory, or maybe he was onto something. But look, they wanted to use it for power. That's what they did back in Egypt times, and now they're doing it again. We left, but a group working in South America persisted. We contacted Egypt in the 18th dynasty, communicating with a pharaoh who honored the sun disk, Aten, closely aligned with our teachings. This pharaoh, Akhenaten, proclaimed the law of one, but it was not widely accepted. His beliefs were not fully embraced, and traditional beliefs returned after his time. And since some of you weren't here during that call, we went into the internet to find out, does the internet validate this? And so we started doing research about Akhenaten. Akhenaten was indeed a pharaoh of the 18th dynasty. He was married to Nefertiti. I don't know how to say her name. He did proclaim monotheism for Egypt. He was actually very young, but after his death, it quickly got shut down. They completely wiped the libraries of any mention of a one infinite creator, and they reestablished polytheism back into Egypt. Again, wiping out the truth. Sounds familiar. They also introduced crystal healing. Crystal healing works by understanding the body's structure. Different crystals affect various energies. The healer must be purified and aligned with the planetary and cosmic energies. The selection of the crystal is critical. Initiation is required, and few persevere to achieve this level. If you're wondering, if you hear the word initiation and wonder what that means, it means someone who is initiated is now a more receptive transmitter of God's message of unity, oneness, etc. Meaning they are a more open channel to the law of one. So if you're wondering, what does that mean? Essentially, picture a perfect sphere, crystal, like a perfect quartz crystal, and the light of the creator is shining through that crystal. and it's perfect radiant abundance. But when you poke a hole in there and distort it because of conditioning, perspectives, opinions, beliefs, projections, that light is now distorted and it's not as full and radiant. When you are initiated, you're essentially making sure there's less and less holes in this perfect crystal that is you. The more balanced you are and the more open you are to light from the creator and the love of the creator, the more radiant you are, the more you are able to, by just being able to change people around you. Imagine Jesus back in the day. If you have any belief in Christianity's mythology or texts, it'll tell you that Jesus, just by being, was able to create change, and miracles were able to happen. And that's because he was a perfect channel for the love and light of the one infinite creator. So he was what's called an initiate, okay? And what Ra is sharing with us is that crystals can help us purify our channels. And so that's why they offered that to the Egyptians. Continued. Were you responsible for building the pyramids, and what was their purpose? We built the larger pyramids using the forces of one. The stones are alive. The pyramids served as initiation sites and healing centers, balancing planetary energies. Did you just hear what I said? Rob built the pyramids. Now let's find this here. Where is him talking about? Thus the pyramid. We came and were welcomed by the peoples whom we wish to serve. We attempted to aid them in technical ways having to do with the healing of mind, body, spirit, complex distortions through the use of the crystal, appropriate to the distortion, placed within a certain appropriate series of ratios of time-space material. Thus were the pyramids created. So what they just said is that they created the pyramids, which are massive crystals, within certain appropriate ratios of space material. Thus, the pyramids were created. And they created the pyramids as a healing center for the mind, body, spirit complex distortions. So what does that mean? Well, healing of the mind, body, spirit complex distortions. What is a distortion? Distortion is a twisting. So again, if you have perfect radiant light, you poke a hole in that crystal, what happens? The light doesn't refract perfectly. A distortion is anything that blocks that light. So think about it for a second. What can block the light? Hate, fear. Remember COVID? How fear was pumped like crazy? It was so funny. But I don't know why fear is something we need to focus on. What we need to focus on is love, unity, the opposite of fear. All those things block the light of the creator. So those are distortions. And what they wanted to do is, because everyone in Egypt was dying at the age of 30. That was the average lifespan in Egypt around that time, around their 30s. So how could they evolve spiritually if they were dying? What they wanted to do was they wanted to heal the mind, body, spirit complex, which means individual. If you see mind, body, spirit complex, that means individual. You cannot be a human being unless you have a conscious mind. You are aware of your thought. You have thoughts and you're aware of them, and you have an idea that you are more than just thoughts, right? And your body is connected to your mind is connected to your spirit. So they're all one. So mind, body, spirit complex. Jasmine, did you want to say something? Okay. All right. If you are mind blown yet, I'm telling you, it gets even better. Where were we? I think we read all of number 2. Nope, we didn't. Oh yeah, okay. We built the larger pyramids using the forces of one. The stones are alive. The pyramids served as initiation sites and healing centers, balancing planetary energies. What was the pyramid's capstone made of, and how were the heavy blocks moved? Please ask this question in our next session. How should we care for the instrument, the channel, to maximize her comfort and ability? The instrument is experiencing unnecessary fatigue. Purify the area with the circle of one and a specific dialogue. Align her head 20 degrees north by northeast. Place a virgin chalice of water, a Bible, incense, and a white candle around her. The instrument should wear a white robe and be covered with eyes closed. Sessions should be held before sunrise or without artificial lighting. I leave you in the peace and love of the one creator. Rejoice and go forth in joy. Adonai. Okay, that was session 2. Now you have a better understanding of session 2. Officially, you are a part of the crew now because we're going through session 3. Before we go through session 3, was there anything you'd like to question or ask about or comment on about what was shared? I know we shared a lot. I am aware of the time, which is why I sped up. But if you have any questions, go ahead and chime in. Chemtrails, yeah. Oh, those darn things.
Yeah, chemtrails block the sun.
Yep.
I just wanted to ask, yeah, I just wanted to ask, what year was this channeled?
1981.
1981. Okay. So after A Course in Miracles, which was in the 70s.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, Carla has talked about A Course in Miracles a few times. She's a big, she loves Jesus, Yehoshua, who you're going to learn about later. By the way, if you're wondering, does Jesus show up in the Law of One? Well, we talk about Jesus in the Law of One. This is amazing. I can't wait to get into that. Any more questions? Okay.
I do have a question. So Ra, I mean, is he also like a same entity as Jesus?
No. We are all one, but it is an individualized social memory complex from the planet Venus, and they are a part of the confederation of planets in service to the one infinite creator. Now, the confederation of planets are a group or an alliance that work together to basically make sure that our planet and our solar system work harmoniously, and that negative entities don't try to come and mess with our free will.
Okay, so
Bring that up because Jesus, Yehoshua, is a social complex that is also a part of the confederation of planets in service to the one infinite creator. Ooh.
Okay, so maybe it will be clear as we move forward.
Absolutely. We will talk about that. Jesus,
Okay.
he was a real entity. And if you have, after learning about the true Yehoshua, I was so much more in reverence and awe of Yehoshua due to the fact that if Jesus was a social memory complex or is a social memory complex and decided to visit us, that means that it is potentially millions of souls in one human being. So the wisdom, the power, the knowledge that Jesus had, of course, I mean, it's mind-blowing. I'm getting ahead of myself here. I think I'm fanboying here. Am I hot? Love Jesus. All right. Session 3. Jaslyn, please go ahead. Yes.
So we did say we're going to start reading session 3. We're going to start doing a summary of the main things that they talked about, correct? So that we won't have to do the whole. Okay, cool.
Right. So before we get into the actual reading, I did highlight this as read here because the beginning portions of this, what they're doing is they're just moving the pieces, the artifacts. The artifacts are the virgin chalice of water, the Bible, and the incense and the candle. Okay. So if you're wondering what are the artifacts they're talking about here, that's what they're talking about. So we're going to go through this anyways, because I think it's important for us to read every single portion. But when I'm done with this, Jaslyn, go ahead and read right here, 3.6. Okay. Okay. Session 3, Ra. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and the light of the one infinite creator. I communicate with you now. Questioner. My first question is, did we correctly perform the ritual for starting the communication? Ra. I am Ra. The placement of the artifacts designed to balance the instrument should be placed at the instrument's head for the least distortion of effect. The remainder of the beginning account of purpose is quite acceptable for those speaking desire to serve. Otherwise, the attendant emphasis in mind complexities would not have been affected properly. We caution you to guard against those who are not wishing to serve others above all else from taking part in the beginning or in lending their distortions of mind, body, spirit complex to any session, as we should then be unable to properly blend our distortions with those of this instrument. Okay, so it was basically saying, yes, certain things were placed properly. Please move X, Y, Z. The remainder of the beginning account of purpose. The beginning purpose is quite acceptable for those speaking, meaning Jim and Don, desire to serve. Otherwise, the attendant emphasis in mind complexities, so thoughts, would not have been affected properly. We caution you to guard against those who are not wishing to serve above all from taking place in the beginning or lending their distortions of mind, body, spirit complex to any session. We caution you to guard against those who are not wishing to serve, who are not positive from taking part in the beginning or in lending their perspectives to any session, as we should then be unable to properly blend our perspective with those of this instrument. I hope that clarified things. Questioner, should I move the Bible, candle, and incense at this time? I am Ra. This would be appropriate. After moving the items, is this the proper position? Ra. I am Ra. Please correct the angle of the incense so that it is perpendicular to the plane of 20 degrees north by northeast. Questioner, after making the corrections, is this satisfactory? Ra. Please check by your eye to make fine correction. We will explain the process by which this becomes a significant distortion balancer, meaning less distortions. So less distortions, better communication. The incense acts as energizer to the physical body of this instrument, signifying its humanity. This is therefore a necessity that the wafted smoke is perceived from the relative angle as the instrument perceives the open Bible, balanced by the lighted candle, signifying love light and light love, and therefore give the mental and emotional, shall we call it, distortion complex of this instrument the sight of paradise and peace which it seeks. Thus, energized from the lower to the higher, the instrument becomes balanced and does not grow fatigued. Essentially, these items, the incense, the Bible, the candle, they emotionally balance Carla so that she feels more comfortable and that she does not grow fatigued. We appreciate your concern, for this will enable our teach learnings to proceed more easily. Does it appear correctly aligned now? Ra. I judge it within limits of acceptability. In essence, it's okay. You did okay. You did just fine enough for us to continue. All right, 3.6, my love.
Questioner. At the last session, we had two questions we were saving for the session. One having to do with the possible capstone of the Great Pyramid at Giza, the other with how you move the heavy blocks. I know these questions are of no importance at all with respect to the law of one, but it was my judgment, which you may correct, that this would provide an easy entry for the reader of the material. We are very grateful for your contact and will certainly take suggestions about how we should proceed with this. This is just one guess. And just to put a little note, it isn't until like around session 8 through 10 that Dawn starts to get an understanding of like, okay, I know what kind of questions to ask Ra. It's not like a random question. He's trying. He's really trying here. But I also found this to be really important because people that are really interested into UFOs, people that are really interested into pyramids, conspiracy theories, the truth, seeking the truth, all of these different things, it's a great entry point. I'm gonna add that quote in there.
Yeah,
I am wrong.
Say really quickly that like they just realized they have this 6th density social memory complex, and if they have the ability to ask questions about things, they're going to ask, since they're UFO researchers, about the things they're interested in, UFOs, pyramids. That way they can get those out the way and they can focus, because I'm sure it's in the back of his mind. He's like, I just got to know about these pyramids.
Who doesn't read books he's read? I am wrong. I will not suggest the proper series of questions. This is your prerogative as free agent of the law of one. So this is totally up to you. Having learned / understood that our social memory complex cannot effectually discern distortions of the societal mind, body, spirit complex of your peoples. In other words, he's saying that as a sixth density being, he may not fully understand why a third density being might be asking something, but he's going to go with the flow. He's going to trust the process. He's going to do all the things that we're taught to do in fourth density and beyond for us and to support us. We wish now to fulfill our teach learning honor responsibility by answering what is asked. We are now ready to answer what you have asked after explaining how we feel about it. This only will suffice, for we cannot plumb the depths of the distortion complexes which infect your people. They just do not understand the perceptions, the projections, the distortions that we create. And I thought it was interesting that he used the word infect, which we already talked about.
Yeah. So on the right, it says, I can't tell you what questions to ask. It's up to you to decide, as you have free will under the law of one, or you can call the law of one the law of God, if you will. We can't fully understand the complex issues of your society. Our job is to answer your questions as best we can, but we can't deeply understand all the problems affecting your people. So it's important we discern a few things. Number one, free agent of the law of one. They're respecting our free will. That's very important for you to understand. Positive contact, again, is respecting the free will. Also, we cannot effectually discern the distortions of the societal mind, body, spirit complex of your peoples. Because Ra, as an agent of the law of one, and on the positive end, cannot bridge all of our free will, come into our brain, take over our bodies, and live our lives for us. It cannot see the experiences that we see, the things we see, unless we allow Ra, we call Ra in. So they cannot know what life is like here for us. So they can only accept the questions that are given to them, or else they would be abridging our free will. If you're wondering, what does this mean, learn or understood? Ra is a sixth density social memory complex, so balance is the most important thing. In Ra's perception, to teach is to learn. To learn is to teach. To understand is to learn. To learn is to understand. They're all one. It sees all things as one. So if you ever see the word teach learning, what this means is being a teacher. Learn teacher or learn teaching is learning. Okay. Honor responsibility. Honor responsibility. All responsibilities are an honor, and all honors are a responsibility. We cannot plumb the depths of the distortion complexes which infect your people. Think about the amount of perspectives that we offer that are just infecting us as a people, that we are separate, that we are a body, for example. It cannot plumb the depths of these distortion complexes, these twisted perspectives that infect us, because they are not us. Okay, continue.
The first, therefore, is the capstone. We iterate the unimportance of this type of data. The so-called Great Pyramid had two capstones. One was out of our design and was of smaller and carefully contrived pieces of the material upon your planet, which you call granite. This was contrived for crystalline properties and for the proper flow of your atmosphere via a type of what you would call chimney. We already talked a little bit about this in the last replay, but we're going to reiterate as much as possible. So last time we looked up granite, and if the capstone that we believe was there before was made out of granite, and we found articles proving that it was made out of granite. At a time when we as a people had left our density, the original was taken away and a more precious one substituted. We all were having a conversation last time about if he's saying that the original was taken away as the one that Ra created themselves, like they took it away when they left the density themselves, and then another one was replaced, or the opposite, if maybe the I forget the word that we used, but the ones that put the second one, maybe if they took it away. That wasn't particularly asked or answered for us, but just putting that into perspective, it could be one or the other.
Yeah,
It
Jasmine, can I
consisted.
comment on this? I actually put this here. There is a text that I found from the the Confederation channelings. Just so you know, L&L Research, the group responsible, the company responsible for, it's actually a nonprofit, responsible for the raw material for all Confederation channelings to be archived and organized. That is L&L Research. They have an entire library of their channelings. And what I did is I went into here, into the archives, and I typed that in, and the response I got was from a channeling done by an entity known as Lima, who's a part of the Confederation of Planets in service to the One Infinite Creator. This is a conscious channeling, okay? So it will be less precise. I put a summary of what she said, or it said. The original capstone was made of granite. Egyptian priests later replaced it with a capstone made of gold. So we were wondering, who replaced the capstone? Was it Ra, or was it the beings that were there at the time? And according to Lima, who's also part of the Confederation and is connected to Ra, the priests replaced it from one of granite to one of gold. The granite capstone comprised a very small portion of the pyramid's total volume, roughly 1/1000th. The granite capstone's height was about 30 feet, aligning with some estimates. However, claims about amorphous crystals in the capstone were inaccurate. It was pure granite. After removing the granite capstone, the pyramid's height, originally around 480 to 485 feet, was reduced. The current height is about 454 feet due to the removal of an original covering over time. The priests replaced the granite capstone with a gold one to reflect their elite status. There it is again. Reserving the pyramid's use for royalty and those in powerful positions. All right, continue.
Thank you so much for getting that. You didn't even tell me. That was like a whole surprise for me. Okay, where were we? Can you take me back to this one?
Yes.
3 point.
Right.
There you go. At a time when we as a people had left our density, the original was taken away and a more precious one substituted. Thank you for answering that question. It consisted in part of a golden material, the precious one that was substituted. This did not change the properties of the pyramid, as you call it, at all, and was a distortion due to the desire of a few to mandate the use of the structure of the royal place only. So Yusuf just talked about this. The priests ended up replacing the granite capstone with a golden material and made it specifically only for royalty compared to for everyone, which was the goal of Ra. Do you wish to query further upon this first question? Shall I continue?
3. Oh, yes, please.
Okay. 3.7. What did you mean by chimney? What was its specific purpose? Ra. There is a proper flow of your atmosphere, which, though small, freshens the whole of the structure. This was designed by having airflow ducts, as this instrument might call them, situated so that there was a freshness of atmosphere without any disturbance or draft. You want to click the button? I wonder if this was for purification, becoming a channel for Law of One purposes, or for the initiate being inside the pyramid to breathe.
Yeah, so the docs, I'm wondering if it's like for energy reasons or if it was because they needed to breathe while in the pyramid. Yeah.
Probably a mix. Juliana's asking, so the material granite is more valued than gold?
More valued than gold? No, I think it was just better conductor of energy, the granite. And then gold was just used as like an elite thing. Like, oh, we're royal, we're elite. So they're like, we want something a little shinier. It's something that we can all attest to. We like shiny things. If you were an elite politician back in the Egyptian times, like, and you had all the money and power, and you're like, this is the greatest structure known to man. Let's take over it and put one of our materials on it. That's what they did. Would we do any different if we were in the same position? Who knows? Claudia.
Well, what it is, a gold is an antibacterial as well. So there you can. Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why a lot of teeth and long time ago they used to the structures used to be with the gold how to say casted gold on the teeth.
Oh,
because of the antibacterials. Yeah,
does.
purpose.
So this is what the capstone would look like if you were, so this is today, but that's what the capstone would look like if you were wondering, what is the capstone? It's that part on the pyramid known as a pyramidion. Try to say that 10 times fast. Pyramidion. This capstone was originally made of granite, and the elite removed the one at the top, this mini pyramid essentially, and put gold instead of granite to make up the new capstone. That's what we're talking about here. Mind blowing that Ra built the pyramids with thought. Did anyone catch that last session? Ra built a pyramid with thought.
We're about to get there. The next one is how the blocks are being moved. They're about to get there, huh?
It was in session. Oh, I thought we were in session 2.
Yeah, you're in it.
Together. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Christina thought, as in a THO. How do you spell that? TH. I gotta spell it.
Thinking.
There you go. THOUGHE. Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Darcy. 3 points. Nope, you're gonna. How were the blocks moved? All right, you seem excited for this one, so go ahead, honey.
Okay. Questioner. How are the blocks moved? Ra. I am Ra. You must picture the activity within all that is created. The energy is, though finite, quite large compared to the understanding distortion of your peoples. This is an obvious point well known to your peoples, but little considered. Ooh, let's think about this for a second. You must picture the activity within all that is created. The energy is, though finite, quite large compared to the understanding distortion of your peoples. Understanding distortion of your peoples? Quite large compared to the understanding distortion to the thinking of your peoples. Let's put a comment here. I think thinking of your peoples. I think that's what they're meaning here. This is an obvious point, well known to your peoples, but little considered. The energy. Yes.
What I got from the energy is, though finite, quite large compared to the understanding distortion of your people. What I got from that is that the energy of now that we know that they moved it through thought, that the energy of thought of what Ra thinks, to them, that's of little importance. But to us, it's probably of really big importance. It's probably quite large and understanding of like, wait, you could move things with thought? But to them, it's like an everyday occurrence. That's what I got from that.
Let's see. Love it. That makes sense. That resonates. Okay. This energy is intelligent. It is hierarchical. Much as your mind-body-spirit complex dwells within an hierarchy of vehicles and retains, therefore, the shell or shape or field and the intelligence of each ascendingly intelligent or balanced body, so does each atom of such a material as rock. When one can speak to that intelligence, the finite energy of the physical or chemical rock body is put into contact with that infinite power which is resident in the more well-tuned bodies, be they rock or human, be they human or rock. So this is what I got. Energy is intelligent and organized in levels. Just like your mind, body, and spirit are arranged in a hierarchy, with each level having its own form and intelligence, the same applies to every atom in a material like rock. When you can connect with the intelligence with this intelligence, you can link the limited energy of the physical rock with the infinite power present in higher, more balanced forms, whether they are human or rock. Ra is basically communicating with the infinite part of the rock to move the rock. Whoa. Let's see if we can break this down. Much as your human complex dwells. What does it mean to dwell? Live in or at a specified place. within a hierarchy of vehicles and okay, bodies. This means bodies. So and retains therefore the shell or shape or field, okay, retains the form and the intelligence of each ascendingly intelligent or balanced body, so does each atom of such a material as rock. So it's basically what Ra is saying here is that, from what I understand, this is my distortion, that a rock's atoms is just as intelligent as a human being is in its own way. It has its own intelligence. Each atom of the rock has its own intelligence. And what they can do is they can speak to that intelligence. And that rock body is then put into contact with infinite power, which is resident in the more well-tuned bodies, be they rock, be they human or rock. When one can speak to that intelligence, the finite energy of the physical is put into contact with that infinite power.
Talk about the law of one. This is like, if you could speak to a rock and move a rock, you know that you understand and understand oneness to the fullest, right? So it's quite interesting to think about. Also makes you think about Jesus and how he had healing hands and walks on water. And I'm curious on, well, obviously the idea is that he did understand oneness to its full capacity, and that's why he was able to also see the finite energy of different beings and different energies and work with them.
Yes, he could walk on water because he could speak to the intelligence of that water. With this connection made, a request may be given. The intelligence of infinite rockness communicates with it to its physical vehicle. And that splitting and moving which is desired is then carried out through the displacement of the energy field of rockness from finity to a dimension which may be conveniently called simply infinity. I understood this as Ross saying the astral spirit part of the rock communicated with its physical part to move. In this way, that which is required is accomplished due to the cooperation of the infinite understanding of the Creator indwelling in the living rock. This is, of course, the mechanism by which many things are accomplished, which are not subject to your present means of physical analysis of action at a distance. Which is required is accomplished due to the cooperation of the infinite understanding of the Creator indwelling in the living rock. So let's piece this together for a second. Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. You're seeing me do this live. That which is required is accomplished due to the cooperation of the infinite understanding of the Creator living in the rock. Mechanism by which many things are accomplished that are not subject to your present means of physical analysis of action at a distance. So basically, this is the mechanism which is not physical. So you can't analyze this in a physical sense. Many things are accomplished which are not subject to your present means of physical analysis of action at a distance. Yep, that's what I understood there. Okay, my love. 3.9. Anybody have a question about how Ra was able to move a rock by thought?
We did have a question. What would you even say? I want to know. I have a question on how it works at all. Like how does the thought become more than a thought? What do you got?
What was that?
Juliana says, I would like more details.
More details about what part?
Of the thought. How does thought to move things?
How does thought move things? Ooh. All right, then let's continue.
The how. Okay, cool. 3.9. I'm reminded of the statement approximately, if you had enough faith, you could say to a mountain to move, and the mountain would move. I assume this is approximately what you are saying. And I am assuming that if you are fully aware of the law of one, then you are able to do these things. Is that correct? I am raw. The vibratory distortion of sound faith is perhaps one of the stumbling blocks between those of what we may call the infinite path and those of the finite proving / understanding. So can you your little thing? Yeah. Faith can be a challenge for people. Some follow a path that believes in endless possibilities and spiritual truth without needing proof, the infinite path. So they don't need proof of God, of law, of there's enough proof to go around. They don't need to see God in a physical form to be able to worship and appreciate. Others rely on proof and understanding through tangible evidence, the finite path. The ones that say, well, I don't believe in God, I don't see proof of God. They don't see what is literally right in front of their eyes. The fact that there are hundreds of varieties of plants and animals, and that every single human being has a different thumbprint, just our thumbprint. So can you imagine that? The difference in how they view faith can cause difficulties between these two ways of thinking. I need everybody to be moved down a bit into the center. You're precisely correct in your understanding of the congruency of faith and intelligent infinity. However, one is a spiritual term, the other more acceptable perhaps to the conceptual framework distortions of those who speak with measure and pen. You click the little, yeah.
Basically those who are more analytical. Yeah. To the analytical mind. You are precise in your understanding of the congruency of faith and intelligent infinity, which is God essence here. However, one is a spiritual term, the other more acceptable, perhaps, to the conceptual, to the analytical mind. So one is a spiritual term, the other more acceptable, perhaps, to the analytical mind.
Christina, you did a great job. Mind over matter. Easy way to put it together. 3.10. Then if an individual is totally informed with respect to the law of one and lives and is the law of one, such things as the building of a pyramid by direct mental effort would be commonplace. Is that what I am to understand? Am I correct? So he's saying, so if we respect and live by the law of one, could we also move a pyramid? Is it easy to them? Is it commonplace? Is it easy and normal for people to move things with thought if they respect and live with the law of one? I am wrong. You are incorrect in that there is a distinction between the individual power through the law of one and the combined or societal memory complex, mind, body, spirit understanding of the law of one. So there is a difference between the individual power, as in this body, this third density body, understanding the law of one, and a whole society, all 9 billion souls on this planet that may understand the law of one. In the first case, only the one individual, unified hive mind versus individual. Thank you. In the first case, only the one individual, purified of all flaws, could move a mountain. So you put no blockages in the energy centers. So imagine all 7 energy centers. I mean, specifically the 3 bottom ones, but you get me. All 7 energy centers having 0 blocks, purified of all flaws. You are a full Christian being. This was Jesus. Jesus is a perfect example of purified of all flaws. Could move a mountain. In the case of mass understanding of unity, each individual may contain an acceptable amount of distortion, and yet the mass mind could move mountains. So even if, as a society, out of the 9 billion souls, that none of us are fully purified of all flaws. None of us, or even some of us, may still have blockages in some of the energy centers. They can still move a mountain. The progress is normally from the understanding which you now seek to a dimension of understanding which is governed by the laws of love and which sets the laws of light. Those who are vibrating with the law of light seek the law of one. Those who vibrate with the law of one seek the law of forgiveness. So Ra is speaking of the evolution of the densities from fourth, which is the law of love. Fifth is light. Sixth is unity / the law of one. And seventh is foreverness. So they're pretty much explaining the progression of the understanding of the law of one comes from the density evolution process. So moving from third to fourth, from fourth to fifth, from fifth to sixth, we're going to understand the law of one more and more, and it will be more and more commonplace to move things with thought.
Can I clarify this really quickly? So only the one individual purified of all flaws could move a mountain. Who are they talking about? We're just talking about the dude, Jesus, someone who is crystallized, purified, like essentially God in living form, living flesh.
Christ consciousness,
Christ consciousness.
Heart-based chakras, right, energy center.
Yep. There's different words for the term, the enlightened one, the Christ itself, the
anointed one.
The anointed one, etc. So only someone who's purified of all flaws, could move a mountain. If you're purified of all flaws or distortions, you most likely wouldn't be living on Earth, most likely, or you would be you would essentially no longer need a body because you're purified, you're perfect. You like realize, oh, oneness, unity, deep in your soul. And all you saw was love and light everywhere. You saw Bill Gates and you wanted to give him a kiss on the cheek, even though he's blocking the sun, because you see the light in him. You cannot see any separation whatsoever. Beyond that, in words that we can't even describe, it's ineffable to think that we could even describe it. So purified of all flaws, it's very rare that this happens. Very, very rare. I can't even name you one person. I'm sure Aaron Apke could name you a few that have essentially no longer needed a body and they rose. But I can't tell you off the top of my head. In the case of mass understanding of unity, so in the case
all the prophets, I would say all the prophets that you can think of, like the Enoch was one of them, and he's known a lot in the Essenes, as well as not particularly in the Christian Bible, but in the Hebrew Bible, I believe Enoch is there. There's also Buddha as an example, Jesus as another example, Osiris supposedly, as well as Dionysus, and the different mythological statements came from certain people that also were purified of all flaws in those certain time periods. Supposedly it's rumored that every 200 years there's at least one person that comes into Earth and is purified of all flaws, but they tend to stay away from society for the most part, being underneath a tree / in a cave.
Sounds like my kind of good time. Yes, so in the case of mass understanding of unity, so in the case of all of us unified as one, each individual may contain many distortions, and yet the mass mind could still move mountains. Why? Because we're unified. That's the power of unifying a whole population. The progress is normally from the understanding which you now seek to a dimension of understanding which is governed by the laws of love. So the dimension which we now seek is the dimension that we were in at the time of this channeling, which is third. And third is self-awareness. Self-awareness, realizing, oh, I have a body, I have a spirit, I have a mind. The laws of love is fourth density, which we are now currently in. And fourth density will always seek the law of light. The law of light is the law of fourth density. Those who are vibrating with the law of light, which is, fifth density, those who are vibrating with fifth density seek the law of one, which is sixth. Those who vibrate with sixth density, the law of one, seek the law of foreverness, which is seventh. I'm done.
We cannot say what is beyond this dissolution of the unified self with all that there is, for we still seek to become all that there is, and still are we Ra, thus our paths go onward. So they're saying they cannot speak what is above in 7th density because they themselves 6th density at the moment. And that is why they're still called raw. They still have some kind of individualness to them, and compared to being in full unification. They cannot say what is beyond 7th density because they are of the 6th. Perfect. So 3.11. Was the pyramid then built by the mutual action of many of your people? I am raw. The pyramids which we thought / built were constructed from thought forms created by our social memory complex. So they ended up, this is an interesting one. The pyramids which we thought / built were constructed from thought forms created by our social memory complex. As in, they're full, how many billions of souls? 6.5 million souls of raw ended up creating the thought form together. 3.12. Then the rock was created by thought in place rather than moved from somewhere else. Is that correct? I'm raw. We built with everlasting rock the Great Pyramid, as you call it. Other of the pyramids were built with stone moved from one place to another. So the Great Pyramid, the Great Pyramid of Giza, was created with everlasting rock, so it was not particularly moved at all. It was thought of in place. But the rest of the pyramids did have stones that were moved from one place to another. 3.13. What is everlasting rock? Easy, can you move down one change of it? Thank you. What is everlasting rock? I am rock. If you can understand the concept of thought forms, you will realize that the thought form is more regular in its distortion than the energy fields created by the materials in the rock, which has been created through thought form from thought to finite energy and beingness in your, shall we say, distorted reflection of the level of the thought form. Geez, Raw, you couldn't have made that just a little easier. Luckily, we can. Thought forms are more consistent and orderly compared to the energy fields of physical materials like rocks. So thought forms are more consistent and orderly. Honey, you're gonna have to do this one. Bring it.
Yeah, so I knew what they were saying here before I asked raw ChatGPT, but it's going to be more accurate if you read. So let's read it. Thought forms are more consistent and orderly compared to the energy fields of physical materials like rocks. Thought forms start as pure thoughts and then become physical energy and objects, though they are just a distorted version of their original thought form state. So what Ra is saying is that thought forms are more regular and undistorted than material. So thought is less distorted than material. You'll realize that the thought form is more regular in its distortion than the energy fields created by the materials in the rock.
Arigaki's coming back to me. One of his videos. He talks about how thought is less distorted than the physical because thought is what happens first before the physical material happens. So for example, projection versus perception. Projection has less distortion than perception because projection comes first before perception. So whatever comes first has less distortions. Thank you. What does Ra call the Great Pyramid? It's more of what we call it. So Ra follows, I say he, they follow more of what resonates with us at the end of the day. The Great Pyramid, Giza, etc.
They can only use our language and they're only able to use Carla's language specifically, which is why they chose a very intelligent librarian to channel through who is gifted in silence and meditation. So they can only use what she would say. And then you'll find throughout the passages that they'll say, as this instrument would say, pyramid. So that's their way of saying, hey, Carla would call it a pyramid, so we're going to call it the Great Pyramid. I think you're on this part.
3.14. May we answer you in any more helpful ways? This is slightly triple, but I was wondering why, in that case, the pyramid was made of many blocks rather than the whole thing being created at once. So why does it show to look like there's a lot of different blocks? Like I don't know how many blocks there are, like 200 or something like that, compared to it just looking like one huge 480-foot pyramid form, just one block. I am Ra. There is a law which we believe to be one of the more significant primal distortions of the law of one. That is the law of confusion. You have called this the law of free will. We wish to make a healing machine or time-space ratio complex, which was as efficacious as possible. However, we did not desire to allow the mystery to be penetrated by the peoples in such a way that we became worshipped as builders of a miraculous pyramid. Thus, it appears to be made, not thought. So what they're saying, I'm sure Yusuf has something about the law of confusion versus the law of free will, which is the same thing. There's different primal distortions, which mean primal perceptions of the law of one, which equals the law of free will. In other words, these laws help you understand the law of one in more form, in a higher understanding, in a higher ascension spiral version of it. So the law of confusion and the law of free will is saying, I'm having a blank on why the law of free will / the law of confusion supports what they're saying below, but I'll explain what they're saying below and then you can jump in, honey. So what they're saying below is that they wanted it to be a mystery. Okay, law of confusion. So, or I guess it could be called the law of mystery. They wanted it to be a mystery to the people of who made it, which obviously hundreds of years later has worked. It has been a mystery for oh so long until the law of when the raw contact came out.
Yeah. Let's piece this together. So there is a law which we believe is one of the more significant primal distortions. So primal laws, anything that isn't the law of one is a distortion, by the way. You're like, what is a distortion? Anything that is not pure, radiant, loving light of the one infinite creator is a distortion. And what is one of those significant primal distortions? That is the law of free will. The law of free will is also known as the law of confusion. If you think about it for a second, if you put a mouse inside of a maze and you wanted to figure out if it's going to make it on the other side, but then you set up pathways for it to make it to the other side that were exactly what it needed to make it to the other side, it would not have been able to use its own discernment and its own thinking to get to the other side. So the law of confusion, meaning there are no shortcuts. We have free will to determine our path. That's free will. Confusion, law of confusion is the same thing. Okay, so every time you see that, law of mystery is another way to say it. You've called this the law of free will. Continue, my love.
I read that part.
Okay, so we wish to make this a healing machine. I noticed that they always put an before any word with an H. So I guess they see it as like an healing machine or something. But or time-space ratio complex, which was as efficacious as possible. This means as effective as possible. Or time-space is space, a space ratio complex, which was as effective as possible. So they placed this at a perfect point on Earth to make it as effective as possible. However, we did not desire to allow the mystery to be penetrated by the peoples in such a way that we would be worshipped as builders of a miraculous pyramid. So they made it in a way so that it seemed to be built rather than thought, so that they would not be worshipped as builders of a miraculous pyramid, because again, they don't want to violate free will and they don't want to be worshipped as gods, which unfortunately Ra, if you look up Ra, like for a second, let's look up Ra. Let's see how effective that was. Let's look up Ra, Egypt, Ra and Egypt. Let's see how effective they were. See, Egyptian god, what do you see? You see, when I type this in, the Ra Egyptian god, that's like the first thing that popped up. Look, we have pictures, and so they're still worshipped as gods. Imagine if they didn't try to prevent that. They would definitely have been worshipped as gods. So what they wanted to do is they wanted to build the pyramid in a way that it looked like it was built and not thought. I hope that clarifies it. 3.15, session 15. Sorry, session 3, part 15. Questioner. Well, then you speak of the pyramid, especially the Great Pyramid, I assume as primarily a healing machine, and also spoke of it as a device for initiation. Are these one and the same concepts? Ra. They are part of one complex of love, light, intent sharing. To use the healing aspects properly, it was important to have a purified and dedicated channel or energizer for the love light of the infinite creator to flow through. Thus, the initiatory method was necessary to prepare the mind, the body, and the spirit for service in the creator's work. The two are integral. The initiatory method is a process designed to prepare a mind-body-spirit complex or a human being for higher spiritual service and understanding. This method involves a series of steps or rituals that aim to purify, enlighten, and align the individual with the love light of the infinite creator. I think this was you, Jazzy. Well done here. Meditation of
Yeah,
mind, body,
thanks.
spirit, cleansing, meditation, and contemplation. So these are methods, I think, right? Or what are
Yeah.
these here?
These are different possibilities for the initiatory method to be able to help mind, body, spirit complex in understanding the loved one. So cleansing, purification, as well as baptisms, meditations, contemplations. All of these are different, I use the word pathways to understanding the loved one more.
Mm-hmm. So anytime you see passages like this where it says love, light, intent sharing, what I like to do is take the last word, and this is the one I use. So they are part of one complex of light sharing. To use the healing aspects properly, it was important to have a purified and dedicated channel or energizer. Energizer of what? Light. For the light of the infinite creator to flow through. Thus, the initiation was necessary to prepare the mind, body, and spirit for service in God's work. That's what I would say, the creator's work, God's work, infinity's work. The two are integral.
I'll quickly add, Christina, you mentioned what does Ra call the Great Pyramid? If you've noticed, he called it the healing machine. They called it the healing machine. And right now they're also calling it the initiatory, as part of the initiatory method. That's why they created the pyramid, to initiate mind, body, spirit complexes, humans, into the law of one, into cleansing and healing and blocking, unblocking the 3 energy centers at the bottom. Cool. Go ahead.
What was that question that you were answering here?
Christina asked, what does Ra call the Great Pyramid? So well, we call it the Great Pyramid. What I've seen they call it is the healing machine. They're talking about it in the initiatory method. Yeah, for them, it was a healing temple, pretty much. Healing machine, some kind of machine that was created for the initiatory / healing process. Christina says she got it.
I love.
You want me to read? Okay. 3.16. Does the shape of the pyramid itself, is that a key function in the initiation process? Ra, this is a large question. We feel that we shall begin and ask you to reevaluate and ask further at a later session at this somewhat, shall we say, informative point. To begin, there are 2 main functions of the pyramid in relation to the initiatory procedures. One has to do with the body. Before the body can be initiated, the mind must be initiated. This is the point in which most adepts of your present cycle find their mind, body, spirit complexes distorted from. So they're saying that the first function of the pyramid was in relation to the initiatory procedures. So to getting someone initiated into the law of one and understanding it, healing, cleansing, was healing the body. And to heal the body, the mind must first be healed, must first be initiated, cleansed, purified. This is the point at which most adepts of your present cycle find their mind, body, spirit complexes distorted from. So we're in the beginning. Our mind is so distorted that our body is also distorted. When the character and personality that is the true identity of the mind has been discovered, the body then must be known in each and every way. Thus, the various functions of the body need understanding and control with detachment. I'm reading this a bit different today. When the character and personality that is the true identity of the mind has been discovered, the character and the personality that is the true identity of the mind has been discovered. It's interesting. I've been playing with the idea that personality is the ego. but personality, the way that they're explaining it, doesn't connect with that. Honey, what do you think? What are your thoughts on this?
Once you know yourself, the body then must be known each and every way. So once you know your mind, once you know your tendencies, your perspectives, your personality, all these is the ego. And that is the true identity of the mind. Once you know yourself, once you've discovered that, the body must then be known each and every way. Thus, the various functions of the body need understanding and control with detachment. So understanding and control while knowing that you are not a body. The first use of the pyramid then is the going down into the pyramid for the purposes of deprivation of sensory input, so that the body may, in a sense, be dead and another life begin. Whoa.
We're going back into getting rid of all the 5 senses, doing a deprivation flow tank, which we talked about last session. And I do want to mention the detachment. What I get from the detachment is observing, being the witness to the character and personality versus being the actual character personality. Being aware of the character and personality is different than being the character and personality, but understanding that the observer is different than the personality itself. Cool. Go ahead.
Let's talk about this one. The first use of the pyramid then is the going down into the pyramid for purposes of deprivation of sensory input, so that the body may, in a sense, be dead and another life begin. So sensory deprivation tanks, aka isolation tanks, were created by John C. Lilly, a scientist and researcher. He liked to study consciousness. He was known to say in the book Center of the Cyclone, the lack of distracting stimuli allowed me to program any sort of a trip that I could conceive of. This freedom from the external reality was taken as a very positive point, not a negative one. One could go anywhere that one could imagine one could go. I traveled through my brain, watching the neurons and their activities. Sounds pretty epic, huh? This freedom was from the external reality was taken as a very positive point. One could go anywhere one could imagine. Here's Bree Juris, a University of San Diego professor. She shares her experience in the Huffington Post about her sensory deprivation tank experience. After deconstructing myself and the surrounding environment, a feeling that can only be described as pure awareness appeared in the rubble of dismantlement. Though I had no idea where I was situated in space, time, and location, I was more aware than ever that I existed, that I was something bigger, larger, more significant, something other than my surface ego-based identity. I felt persuaded with strange familiarity that within myself is the ability to both create and be created, genesis and regenesis, newness and renewal. I physically felt this conviction deep in my body, a sensation I can only describe as located in the space in the middle of my rib cage, in my heart. I felt myself drift in the tank, eyes shut, with my long hair extending around my head and purple swirls spiraling above me. I felt divine, like I was God. I am God. Whoa. That's what they got from a sensory deprivation tank? Like, what are they smoking? That's what I want to know. How did they? Yeah, that's the effect of a sensory deprivation tank. So if it's powerful enough for us today, why couldn't it be the same way back in Egyptian times? That's how powerful it is. I wanted to share this with you because I want you to understand the power of this sensory deprivation tank. And back in the day, when Ra was around and they had the pyramids, I'm sure it was even more powerful. One of my dreams is to be able to go back in time and just experience a sensory deprivation tank the way an initiate would in Egyptian times. That'd be so cool. We advise at this time any necessary questions and a fairly rapid ending of this session. Have you any query at this time space? Jazza?
The only question Is there anything that we have done wrong or anything that we could do to make the instrument more comfortable? Wrong. We scan this instrument. This instrument has been much aided by these precautions. We suggest only some attention to the neck, which seems in its body distortion to be distorted in the area of strength/weakness. More support, therefore, to the neck area may be an aid. Carla needs a little bit of support in the neck area because it's probably hurting her from laying down for so long. 3.18. Should we have her drink the water from the chalice behind her head after we charge it, or should we use a different glass of water? Raw. That and only that chalice shall be the most beneficial, as the virgin material living in the chalice accepts, retains, and responds to the love vibration activated by your beingness. I am Raw. I will now leave this group rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one creator, Adonai. So what they're saying about the water is that, yes, to drink the water in the chalice after she wakes up, after Carla wakes up, because it already has the love vibrations, and it also was in the room with them the entire time. So I got the vibrations of the water, and it could help soothe her as she comes back. So yeah, that was session 3. We finished. Woohoo! What does Adonai mean? I am going to look that up for you in the concept guide, because if I remember correctly, there's a whole thing there for you. Almost there.
It's Hebrew for Lord or God.
Thank you. I'm going to look for the specifics, but it might take me a little longer.
What a mind-blowing session. Wow. Katie, you're sending me messages directly, just so you know. I don't think it's to everyone in meeting. What does Adonai mean? Let's look it up. That's another way of saying God, the creator, Adonai. Let's see what meaning. I don't really trust every search engine, but it's a Hebrew name for God explained. Okay, that means Lord or Master. Used to address humans or angels. See if there's a general consensus.
I got the same thing.
Lord.
Hebrew for Lord or Master.
Lord or Master, yeah. Yep. Used to express all ownership or praise of God. Yep, this is the one I like the most. Yep. Wow, what a mind-blowing session. One of my favorites. But the first 3 are just so packed with power. Whew. What can we even say about what we just learned here? Are any questions from anyone? Any comments? This is the next 20 minutes we're going to use for open discussion. If you'd like to unmute yourself, share anything that came up. If not, me and Jasmine can talk about what we got from this. But you heard us talk enough today, so it's your turn. But they were all distortions, different perspectives. All is still the law of one, yes. Moving to the law of oneness needs pathways. Needs pathways? Pathways. Not sure what she means. These other laws are close enough to the law of one to have some understand the law of one better. So I think what you're talking about is the different distortions of the law of one. We haven't gone into this yet, but later you're going to learn about the distortions of the law of one. So what are distortions? Twisting, changing. So the law of one is God and its infinite potential. Just all oneness, unity, all perfect light. Anything that comes will distort it. How did that distort? Well, back when the creator, which you're going to learn, I'm jumping ahead, aren't I? I'm jumping ahead. But the creator needed to know itself. And needing to know itself, the first thing that happened is the creator became aware. And then in knowing itself, in desiring to know itself, the creator wanted to express. So it needed the free will to express. So the first primal distortion of the law of one is the law of free will. And the creator, being all loving, obviously, in wanting to know itself. The second primal distortion of the law of one is the law of love, because in knowing itself, it wanted to know love, wanted to feel love, wanted to expand love. And then from there, became light. That's the third primal distortion of the law of one, the law of light. And that light began regularizing and crystallizing to form what we see here today, you and me. But that's where I'm going to stop. Yes, whenever you hear primal distortion, we're talking about the law of free will, or the law of love, or the law of light. Good points, Juliana.
Yes, they use a specific cup. It's specifically important to Carla, which it looks like a chalice.
Mm-hmm. From what I saw, it looked like a gold, like one of those cups that Merlin would have or something, you know? Something really cool. I'm wondering if the term initiation expanded on in future sessions. So initiation, like I like to use the concept guide. Let's talk about initiation. We talked greatly about this last session. Initiation. Initiation. There we go. Am I spelling it wrong? Initiation. Yes, there we go. Let's see what Gary Bean has to say about this. There are many initiations through which one moves in their natural growth patterns, including those universal initiations of birth, puberty, marriage, child rearing, old age, etc. Ross speaks of initiation as a process and a means whereby the mind-body-spirit complex becomes a purified or initiated channel for the law of one. The mind, the body, and the spirit may individually or collectively move through an initiation. Such an initiated person may then channel the love light of the one infinite creator through the gateway in order to be of service, whether that service be radiance of being, the magical work of indigo ray, the communication of blue ray, or the healing of green ray. Though there are big initiations which produce, as Ra describes it, resurrection, a person is likely to move through multiple initiations during the course of their incarnation. Each initiation may be characterized generally by stating that a threshold is crossed that delineates the former experience from the new. This may transpire in a moment or over a long period of time. There is often a challenge or difficulty associated with the crossing of the threshold and some measure of will and faith needed. For some, this may manifest as a dark night of the soul. Through initiation, a deeper recognition of the self is gained. Lessons are learned and or tested, and those distortions which are no longer needed fall away. So if you're here on this call, you have been initiated, just so you know. Period. You have started to open your heart. Every time you've had an experience where you had a open-hearted moment where you saw someone else is like in need and you cared for them, you have a deep, deep cry where you felt sorry because you put yourself in a position of someone else. You were in their shoes. You felt what it's like to be them, one with them. So you felt the emotions that they felt. That's an initiation. That's opening your heart. You can't feel that unless you have an open heart. To open your heart, to move into the heart is an initiation. And I've had a bunch of initiations throughout my life. Actually, in the past 4 years, I would say like 10. Yeah. So welcome, initiate. You are an initiate.
I have a quick question, and this is curiosity, and it might be way down the road in this book, but I just like, because I had information from some other people that it was already studying supposedly this book, but I feel there was some other distortions in there. But is that are we going to see more than the 6 dimensions in this book, like higher than that, will be getting there? Because
Ooh, Claudia, great question. Oh, you are jumping ahead, but I want to answer it. Is it okay? If I confuse you, let me know, okay?
okay,
Okay. So which dimension or which body are we incarnating right now, would you say, Claudia?
well,
Third, right?
right now, according,
Third.
yeah, well, according with the evolution, they were already on fourth, but yes.
Yeah, we are already in fourth, but we are currently inhabiting a third density body, a chemical
Exactly.
body. So what was,
Exactly.
if we know we're in third, that means, okay, did we just appear in third? No, 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 no.
No.
No, because we had to have first appeared in second, and then of course we had to have appeared in first. So first density is the density of beingness, consciousness. That density is the density of the elements. Fire moves rock, water. Water gets moved by air. And air also moves fire and it moves the rock. So they all four elements work together to form the elements, to form Earth. So pure consciousness for billions of years in first density spends billions of years time experiencing what it's like to be the rock, the water, and being moved and changed by the fire and the wind. And after billions and billions of years on a rock, what happens, Claudia? What gets formed on that rock? With water and things mixing with it after billions of years? Fungi. And then eventually out, of course, mycelium. And then, of course, algae and plants. Plants evolve to what? And to trees. Eventually, trees inhabit the earth for billions and billions of years in second density. Second density is the density of movement, reaching from the ground, from the earth to the creator. If you notice plants and trees, where do they always point? They always point towards the sun, always. And if there's certain regions on the earth, if you look at these plants, I think it's in Mauritius, the island nation, it has trees pointing in one direction because that's where the sun normally will spend most of the time. So that is second density. Second density is the density of movement. Third density is when that second density, if you think about it, after billions and billions of years, plants get formed. But what happens after plants get formed? Eventually, animals come. So we know animals exist, right? Everyone can safely say that animals exist. Can I get a yes on that? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Animals exist.
But we know where one of our dogs is coming as a human next time. I don't know how long.
Claudia, you just boom, you already knew. See, here's what happens in late second density. Late second density, animals, thanks to other beings like humans, will be given identity. And when they're given identity, they're now more self-aware. They are trained and they're given a name, an identity, if you will, way of being, a more human characteristic to them. So they become more self-aware as a result. And when they become self-aware, these second density beings, the more self-aware they become, eventually they will become self-aware. And when they become self-aware, they will now be able to incarnate in a third density body. Third density body is the body that you and I have. That's where we're in right now. Third density, third dimension. Well, technically, we're in the third dimension body. All right. So where are we going from here? Well, humans, all of us, eventually will start reading each other's minds. If you are married or you have known someone for at least 2 years, you can read their minds sometimes. Let's be honest. You can read their minds. You can read their emotions. You can tell how they're feeling. These are signs of connection. And think about it. If you were to spend billions and billions of years connecting with this person, eventually you can read their thoughts without them having to speak. this connection is going to happen. This is my theory, and this is what the raw material says. Between loved ones, they'll start connecting to the point where we can read each other's minds. And once we can read each other's minds, me and Jaslyn will be able to read my mom's mind, her mom's, her dad's. And we all just connect more and more mentally, telepathically, to the point where at some point we're all going to join as one hive mind, one in communication by thought. When that happens and we're all focused on one direction of seeking, which is in service to others or in service to self, we have a choice to make in this density. When we make the choice and we all unify in mind together as one, we will join what's called a social memory complex, and we will be officially in a fourth density body. After fourth density, which is the density of understanding, the density of the heart, this is the density of love and understanding. This density, since we can read each other's minds, we know what each other is going through and feeling at the exact moment they're feeling it. It would be pretty overwhelming if that happened right now, wouldn't it? So we have to slowly evolve into that. But once we understand what someone else is thinking and feeling, we have so much more compassion and kindness and love for that person and understanding of what they're going through and feeling. So think of that billions and billions of years evolving where we're all joined in mind. Eventually, since we're in the fourth density, we're going to move to the fifth density. The fifth density is okay. In third and fourth density, we have been serving and giving to the point where, oh my God, we're martyrs. We're like killing ourselves and we're not hurt. We're not taking care of ourselves. And maybe we're not being as wise as we should be in our service. Maybe this person doesn't need service right now. We think they do, but maybe they don't need that kind of love. We need to be a little more discerning and more thoughtful in how we give love. Well, fourth density is eventually going to evolve into fifth, where we have more wisdom. Wisdom now is an internal thing. This is when we start turning in. At this point, we no longer need a body. We're just pure light. So we've all joined in fifth density. We're all meditating for billions of years, essentially, and becoming more and more unified with the Creator. After billions of years of this state of wisdom, so we were in love, now we're in wisdom. What we need to do in sixth density, which is the next density, is unify that love and wisdom and bring balance to that love and wisdom. And that's what we do in sixth density. Sixth density, the law of one. There's the law of love, which is fourth, law of light, which is fifth. The law of one is sixth density. After sixth density, what we do is we seek the seventh density, which is the density of foreverness. And my theory is that at this point, we have unified with the sun body, with our sun or with our star, and we are fully aware of our radiance and our oneness. And this oneness, eventually, this light is going to be so overwhelming to the point that this seventh density star explodes. And what happens? Seventh density, after seventh density, black hole. When a star explodes, it turns into a black hole. That would be the end, the eighth density. The end of the octave, which is the beginning of the first.
Now I have
Well, seven densities, eighth would be technically the full eight. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Did I lose anyone? I definitely jumped.
It's beautiful, the explanations. Thank you. And it makes a lot of sense. Now, and then so for when the body disappears, then the love is different.
What was that?
Like when the body disappears, the body, like the love is different.
I don't, love is never different. The only thing that changes is our ability to be aware of the love that's present. So as our body changes, we are more aware of the infinite creator's love. Does that make sense?
Well,
Not that it ever changes. Like love never changes. Love is always present, but the more dense our body is, like for instance, a rock is more dense than a human, right? We can say it's more, I'm sorry, it's more compact and it's more material, right? It's more like it's not dense, it's not as dense as light. Light is a lot more dense. So when it is more material, more finite, more there, it is not as aware as humans are that we are spirits. A human is much more aware than an animal or a rock. Well, a light being, a fourth density being, because it's made of more light, it has more densely packed light, it is more aware of the love of the creator. Not that the love changes at all. It's just more aware that, oh my God, I am one with every human being I see. We're all one. We're connected as a hive mind. And oh my God, are we one with everything? That's the question it has.
yeah, so being a third dimension being right now is we already have gone through the first and the second.
Absolutely. Yes. To answer your original question, there are 8 densities. The eighth density is the first density of the next octave. And
Yeah,
I cannot speak beyond 6 because it is only in 6. That's why we talk about 6.
yeah, so there's some information coming with I never had read it, right? But there's like talk about after the 8, 9, 10, and 11 and 12. Where's that information comes from?
That's a great question, Claudia. I have no idea why so many people bring up 12th dimension because I've never seen proof of it. If you see like 7 densities of consciousness makes sense because if you look at the number 7, it's everywhere. 7 days in a week, 7 notes in an octave. So it seems to be everywhere. I haven't seen any proof that 12 exists, but I have heard that there are 12 levels, meaning each plane has a certain levels to them. For example, third density also has inner planes. We have the outer planes, which we're in, and we have the inner planes. The inner planes are the astral planes, or it could be even what we call the angelic planes, the astral planes. Also the devaconic planes, which is like where you would inhabit like the Buddha body. This is like the state of the ascended masters. So I would say that maybe that has to do with that. I don't fully understand the 12. I've heard Gia Stefano from Gaia talk about 12, and it really doesn't make any sense to me. But that's just my opinion. That doesn't mean it's factual.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was just curious about that part, like how far this the study that we're doing goes and how far in the dimension. It's a human mind curiosity.
Nelson?
Thank you, Yusuf. By the way, you're doing amazing, Jazz. You're doing amazing. Great questions, everybody. Thank you. I just heard just the other day, Aaron Apke in an interview with someone, and he said that in the Law of One that he had read that even Ra says we can take you as far as this density. Beyond this, we can't go. We don't know. Even Ra doesn't know. So I think he's only up to 6, right? They don't even know what's beyond 7. That's what I heard him say the other day, which is interesting, right? And Deepak Chopra, years ago, I told you guys, I wasn't aware. I was very in the positive mindset. And the seven levels to God. And then when he gets to I'm agreeing with everything. I'm like, wow, interesting. When he gets to the 7th, then you get to 7th. You get to God. You get to nothingness. I took the cassette tapes. They were cassette tapes of 6. I threw them away. What do you mean nothingness? Life is empty and meaningless, right? That's what I heard in Landmark. But yeah, so that's what Aaron Afke said. Interesting, right? Infinity, even Ra, with all of this, got to a certain level. And I love what you say, what is beyond? When I was Mateo, our son the other day, 11 years old, 12 years old, so beautiful. He's looking at a little YouTube channel of black holes. And I was, Mateo, what do you know about black holes? I was so surprised how you knew this. Nelson, these things suck up one of our suns a day, and we don't know what's on the other side. 12 years old. I was like, good point. Good point. So yeah, what's in those black holes, man? They're amazing. Anyways, he found out, he just shared with me that scientists found the biggest black hole ever to date, that it's 1 trillion times the size or brighter than our sun and sucks up one of our suns every day. Where does it go? I don't know. Thank you. I guess Rod doesn't know.
Hey, oh my God. Oh, I love that, Nelson. I love
That is
black holes so much. Thank you for bringing up black holes. 100%. I believe that when that star gets sucked up by the black hole, that means it is joining with the creator. Like, what is this black hole? What is a black hole? Essentially, it's a concentration of light. It's like pulling the light in. So we see it as black because it's pulling the light in. And when we see a sun or we see the earth is refracting the light of the sun. Same thing with the moon. That's the only reason why we see it. The sun is the one emitting the light. It's emitting and radiating the light. And then at some point, that star explodes and it's no longer emitting light. It turns into a black hole. And if it's being sucked in by the black hole, right, the light is being pulled. So when you say it's brighter, I'm thinking it's because that black hole is just pulling all the light of like infinity, man. It's just crazy.
It was funny that he said the black hole is 1 trillion. He used the word trillion because that's what he heard. Brighter than our trillion. I mean, that's like a vast number. Anyways, and I know we're almost closing, but I'd love to share this experience, but yeah, it'll take 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I remember Jasmine one time sent her mom, me, she enrolls everybody. This lady, I forget, it was like this hypnotic session, but she didn't hypnotize you. She just put you in a trance. Gladys, was it, Jasmine? I'm not sure.
Yeah, quantum healing hypnotherapy, which is Dolores Cannon.
Okay, thank you. Anyways, I did that gig, and for the first time ever, she said, let's go back. Let's take you back to 3 lives. One was in the 1500s. I was a knight and a horse. It was like 3D dance. The next one was I went into space. Now listen to this. I've never even heard of this concept. I mean, I've done a lot of research. Now, who's done a lot of research? My ego, whatever. But I've done a lot. This little brain has done a lot of research. Anyways, and in that hypnotic state where she took me from the density of 3D, 1500 years, I mean, in the 1500s, where I was a knight protecting some whatever, guarding whatever, I went into space and I was a light being. I look like Casper. Any of you seen Casper the Friendly Ghost? Just a little silhouette of light that had no organs. I had eyes, and we were with friends. And Gladys was saying, ask him, what do you guys do? I said, guys, what do we do out here? Because we just go. We go through planet. We just go to infinity. We have light beings. They were just beings of light, and they can communicate by thought. And then I was like, interesting. You know, I guess my 3D brain couldn't really grasp it. I was like, well, this is interesting. And then she took me back to my third life, where I just saw the Christ, and I was homeless, laying down on the floor, really dirty, whatever. And I just saw the Christ from a distance, and it was the weirdest thing in the world. I saw his eyes beaming at me. Like if I was living the Bible, the chosen, the stories of the Bible. And guys, all I could do was shake and cry. She was recording this. And I was shaking and crying. I woke up. She goes, what happened? I said, I saw the Christ. She goes, oh, wow. And then she goes, let's go back in. Let's go back in. I said, no, I don't need to go back in. I've been touched. I am done. There's nothing else I need. I'm like as happy, as friggin' loving. I just felt the energy of the Christ. So that was my experience. And with the light beings, that was unique to me too, because I had never even thought of that. And since then, a lot of information has come up that is a possibility of infinity, right? The light just being. So anyways, thank you. Let me share all that stuff.
Yeah, so if you're doing like a past life regression, I'm thinking you were doing something, you were going into a life previous to this at some point. So if you were a light being would be 4th, 5th, or 6th density. So the question, Nelson, is what are you doing in 3rd? And I think
having more fun.
More fun.
And involving some karma, some energy.
Uh-huh.
For the end of this one, right?
Yeah.
I really don't know. At least my ego doesn't know. Some part of me knows, but it's some part of me knows. But egotistically, I can't answer it. It's a wonder.
Well,
One answers it.
Can I add something? According to one of the recordings, and I don't know if it's clear or no, but according to one of the recorders of Aaron Appy, is that somehow the soul like loses something in the fifth dimension, I think, and it can come back to repair that as a third dimension.
Oh,
That's
volunteer.
what my
Wanderers.
understanding.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wander.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like the wonders, exactly. Like the wonders.
Yep.
Yes.
That's what I was referring
Sorry,
to.
we went a
Nelson.
little far, but yes. I'm like in the 13th episode or something like that. So sorry.
Nice.
I know we're a tad jumping ahead on jumping ahead on a few topics here, but what we're referring to is the idea of wanderers. Wanderers are beings that have evolved beyond third density and have decided as a way of service to come to a planet like ours that is struggling to aid in its growth. And if you are fourth, fifth, or sixth, then you can wander. Most wanderers, however, according to Ra, are of sixth density, are of the same density as Ra. Not that you are as maybe evolved as Ra or as old in time measures as Ra, but that you come from the sixth density. The wanderer is usually of late sixth density, because a wanderer will realize that in order to polarize and get closer to the creator, it needs to balance the ways of love with the ways of wisdom. Hopefully I didn't confuse you.
Yeah, I'm gonna
wait to get into that.
yeah, for sure. Dad disappeared.
Yes.
Oh, okay, he's there. Nelson, Dad, you mentioned what is third density all about? You know, fun was added in there, and releasing karma was added in there. Well, the law of one says something which we'll find out, and then I'll be like, this is the one when it happens. The law of one says that third density is all about making the choice. What choice, Jaslyn? The choice of service to others or service to self in every minute, every second, every day, every hour, every moment of our lives. Every moment we have the opportunity to make the choice between love or fear in the way our thoughts, in our mind, in our body, and in spirit, in the way that we live our life, the actions that we take. So the question in every third density opportunity is to officially make the choice. We either can be neutral, which means we're not doing it from a conscious place, we're unconsciously going around the world, going from love or fear, whatever, then you're neutral. But it's only until you make the choice of, I'm going to be a loving person in this moment, or I'm going to on purpose make this person's life a living hell, revenge, whatever it is, that is what third density is all about. So we'll get there.
Yep.
But just love or fear.
That's a beautiful point. Thank you for making that aware of
Yeah.
it. Thank you. That's a great point.
Yeah.
That's a great base for this 3D world. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
One
Absolutely.
last adding to the black holes. I don't know where I heard this or what I listened this in one of the books of the 10 books that I'm listening right now. Is it says that the black holes is like the wombs of the cosmic. Meaning when it gets sucked in, it's because it's either germinating, sprouting, or rebirthing something. And it goes to the darkness, like it goes, in the soil or the babies in the womb. So just want to leave it in there. I don't remember what I heard this, but I did listen to this information. So
Yeah, Jaslyn and I have always had this question. We always had this question. We're like, okay, did we come from something or nothing? Like, was it feminine or was it masculine? Like, what did we come from? Or we're like, what was the original?
Everything.
Was it the emptiness, or was there already like, a manifestation of something that came? And we're 1000%, I'm 1000% sure that we came from no thing. No thing is everything, because it's impossible to have no thing. It's physically impossible. Physically impossible. I believe that we came from like a infinite black hole, if you will, of pure consciousness. And eventually this consciousness was like, okay, I want to know what I'm like. So I have to materialize somehow light. Boom.
We're
And
getting
love
there.
for
We're
the
getting there.
Yes.
We're good
By,
there.
by the
Guys,
way,
I have to go because I
yeah.
have other appointments, but I love you guys. I thank you. I honor you. Next Thursday, same time, same place.
Then
I'm
yes.
Same time, same
excited.
place. The
Yes.
I love you
27th.
guys. I had a 2:15 appointment that I must attend to. I
Oh,
love you.
Enjoy.
Thank
thanks
you
for being
so
here. We love you
much.
too. Thank
Love
you
you.
for being
Nancy, it was
here.
good to see
How's it?
you here. Mama Nancy, love Mama Nancy. Good to see everybody here. You, my wife, all our new friends. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Jasmine Yusuf. And thank you, Ra. And thank you, the law of Christ. Amen. Love you.
Amen. Amen. Ali Love, just wanted to acknowledge you. Welcome to the
Oh,
party.
Alinus, we got to change your name on Zoom, honey.
Yes.
She
Hello.
she officially is going through as her official name. Did I say it right? Alinus? This is the first time I try saying it.
Yes. Hi. It's Ali Ness now. I've
Alinus.
gone back to my father given name and went through a whole process. I didn't realize my old name is still there. But yes, thank you. I
You're
finally
welcome.
made it.
Welcome, Ali. Yes, I don't know if you're listening or reading The Law of One, but we invite you to read the Teaching the Law of One, which I'll share my screen really quickly in case you are wondering what is that. The Teaching the Law of One is the version that we are reading. So it is, whoops, sorry. Yeah, there you go. This version, we're reading this together. We're using this doc here with the help of all these different books and resources. So as we talk about it, if you go through it, you can come up and bring questions if you have any, and also bring dialogue and just chat with us as we go through these sessions. So I invite you to keep coming if you'd like. Read, you don't have to, because we're going to read it as well. But if you do listen to it or read it, you get your own experience, you know? So yeah. Thanks for being here. Thank you, all of you, for sticking around to the very end. We hope to see you next time, and we love you so much. Thank you again for imparting your questions, time, energy, effort, and your light with us. We love you on behalf of the one infinite creator, God, the universe, infinity. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll see you next time. Please unmute yourself and say bye for the camera. Bye.
Bye.
Gracias. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Adios. That
Thank
was
you,
lovely.
Christina.
Thank you. Bye.
And thank you for being here, Wendy, Katie.
Thank
So nice.
you.
Marcus.
Bye.
Mhm.
Adios. Bye.
Bye, everyone. We love you.